Hey everyone, and welcome back again to a new learning video. Today we're diving into something that's absolutely fundamental for anyone using AWS. I'm talking about Amazon S3 storage. And it's also a place where, honestly, a lot of money can just disappear if you're not careful.
So let me just ask you this straight up. Are you overpaying for your S3 storage? Come on, be honest. Because if you're not actively managing your data, I'm going to bet the answer is probably yes. But hey, no worries at all. That's exactly why we're here. By the time we're done, you are going to have the playbook to fix that for good.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to crack the S3 cost puzzle. Then, we'll check out your options for everyday storage. After that, we'll get into the cool stuff, infrequent access and archiving, which is where the big savings are. We'll follow that up with the real magic, automating everything with Lifecycle rules. And finally, we'll pull it all together into a smart storage strategy you can use right away. Sound good? Let's dive in.
So first up, the S3 cost puzzle. And why is it even a puzzle? Well, it's because S3 isn't just one thing. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. And that's actually the whole point. Choosing the right storage class for your data, that is the absolute key to unlocking some serious cost savings. And really, this gets to the heart of it. AWS isn't trying to confuse you with all these options. They're giving you these tools for a reason. The whole idea is to let you perfectly match how you actually use your data with what you pay. It's this constant balancing act, right? You're trading cost against how often you need to get to your stuff and how fast you need it.
Okay, so let's jump into our first group of options, your everyday storage. Think of this as the home for your hot data. The stuff you're accessing all the time, the files you need, like right now, in a flash.
All right, first up is the one you probably already know. S3 standard. It's the default, and there's a very good reason for that. It is fast, it is super reliable, and it's just insanely durable. We're talking about 11 nines of durability. Now, what does that even mean? Well, to put it into perspective, if you stored, say, 10,000 files in S3 standard, you could expect to maybe lose one of them every 10 million years. Yeah, it's pretty reliable.
So, where do you use this? Well, it's perfect for things like hosting your website's images and files, for content distribution, for powering mobile and gaming apps, or even as that first stop for your big data analytics uploads. Bottom line, if you need speed and you need constant access, S3 Standard is your go-to.
Okay, but what if you don't really know how often you're going to access your data? Or what if your access patterns are all over the place, changing from month to month? Well, that is where S3 intelligent tiering comes into play. You can basically think of it as the set it and forget it smart option that does all the tier management for you.
It was literally built for these kinds of situations. You've got these huge data sets or logs coming from machine learning jobs or just a stream of monitoring data. Basically anything where the access frequency is just totally unpredictable, intelligent tiering just handles it. It does all that cost optimization work for you automatically in the background. Pretty neat, right?
All right, so that covers the stuff you use a lot. But what about all the data you don't need every single day? Well, that brings us to our next major category, infrequent access and archiving. And let me tell you, this is where the real cost-saving strategies start to kick in.
And our first stop here is S3 Standard IA. The IA stands for infrequent access. The concept here is actually super simple. You pay a lower price per month just to store the data, but, and this is the key part, you pay a small fee every time you need to pull it back out. It's made for data that you absolutely have to keep, but you really don't expect to be touching it very often. And this right here, this is the core difference. It really lays it all out. With S3 Standard, you're paying a bit more for the storage itself, but you can access it 1,000,000 times and pay nothing extra. With Standard IA, it's the opposite. You get a break on the monthly storage cost, but there's a small charge for every retrieval. It's a classic trade-off.
So this makes it a perfect fit for things like long-term storage, system backups, or disaster recovery snapshots. All that important data you need to keep, but you really, really hope you never actually have to use it.
Okay, but what if we want to go even colder? For true, long-term, deep freeze archiving, we now enter the world of the Amazon S3 Glacier family. And folks, this is where you will find the absolute lowest, rock-bottom prices for storing your data. And at the most extreme end of that spectrum, you have S3 Glacier Deep Archive. This is, hands down, the cheapest possible way to store data in S3. So what's the catch? Well, you can't get your data back instantly. Retrieval can take a while. We're talking anywhere from 12 to 48 hours. So the deal is simple. Your patience equals massive, massive savings. Now, this isn't for your everyday files. This is tailor-made for data you are legally required to keep for, 7 to 10 years, but you will almost never, ever need to look at it. We're talking about things like regulatory and compliance archives, government audit data, or maybe even long-term digital media preservation.
Okay, so we've got all these amazing, cost-effective storage classes. That's great. But who actually wants to spend their time manually moving files from one class to another as they get older? Yeah, nobody. And that, my friends, is why we have to talk about automation. Let's talk about S3 lifecycle rules. This is how you put your entire storage strategy on autopilot.
A lifecycle rule is, well, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's just a set of instructions, a policy that you create. And this policy tells S3 what to do with your files or objects as they get older. It is the ultimate set-it-and-forget-it approach to managing your data.
And you basically have two key actions you can use here. First, you've got transition actions. These are the ones that automatically move your data down that cost ladder as it ages, from standard, then to standard IA, then maybe down to Glacier. Then you have expiration actions. These are just as important. They automatically clean up and delete data when it's past its shelf life, which not only saves you money, but also keeps your S3 buckets from getting cluttered.
Let's walk through a perfect real-world example to see how this works. Imagine you've got a bunch of application log files. So on day 0, they get uploaded to S3 standard because for the first month, you might need to access them constantly for debugging. Then, after 30 days, boom, the lifecycle rule automatically transitions them to standard IA. After 90 days, they're not really needed, so they get archived all the way down to Glacier Deep Archive, just in case of an audit. And finally, after a full 365 days, they've served their purpose, and the rule just expires and deletes them. All automatic.
So what's the payoff for setting up that one simple rule? How about a potential cost reduction of over 70% on storing those logs? I mean, think about that. That is a massive impact for a policy that probably took you, 5 minutes to configure? This right here is where the real power of actively managing your storage tiers comes shining through.
All right, deep breath. We've covered a lot of ground. So now let's bring it all home and put it together into your smart storage strategy. It might seem like a lot of options, but it really just boils down to a few key decisions. And honestly, you can think of this table right here as your ultimate cheat sheet. It's super simple. Got frequently accessed data? S3 standard. Not sure about the access patterns? Let intelligent tiering do the heavy lifting for you. Need to access something rarely, but when you do, you need it fast? Standard IA is your best bet. And for that long-term archiving, you just pick the Glacier option that fits how long you're willing to wait, going all the way down to Deep Archive for the absolute biggest savings. So I'm going to leave you with a little piece of homework. I want you to ask yourself, what's just one lifecycle rule you could go create today to start saving some money? Seriously, think about it. Maybe it's for old logs or backups or those project files from 2 years ago. I'd love to hear your ideas, so drop them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and hey, if you found this useful, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button for more explainers just like this one.